Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Cruise Vibe. I remain your host, Agbi Osaibovo. Tonight, we have a special guest in the house. He's a friend of the family, Mr. Aderoba. You're welcome to the program.
Thanks a lot, sir.
It's good to have you
Same
on
here,
Cruise
sir.
Vibe.
I'm so grateful for the privilege.
I'm so excited to have you on ground. I know the people are waiting to hear from you.
Thank you, sir.
Today, we'll be looking at inheritance. Inheritance is what every first male child in Africa look towards. If your father is very wealthy, you are waiting for that day that you will take charge. Inheritance could either be in form of physical wealth. Inheritance could be culture, values that have been transferred from your parents to you. Barrister Ife Aderoba will be enlightening us more about inheritance. Sir, you are welcome.
Okay. Thanks a lot once again.
Inheritance have been a bit, I don't really know. A lot of people see inheritance as when your father is no more, there are certain things that can be transferred to you. But there are several perspectives to this. But what can you say about inheritance?
Okay. Thanks a lot. Let me start from the legal aspect. We have what is called estates or administration of estates, especially when the person is deceased, and then we begin to talk about the will. If the person dies, testates, um, or probably administration if the person dies intestate. And just like you shared, most people look towards that end, especially when the father is gone and who takes over the possession of the father. And you begin to see people, because I'm the firstborn, I'm entitled. And many people, or let me say, especially the whites, and even some people here in Nigeria, example is Ghanaian and the rest, they make a preparation about how their possessions should be shared and the rest. And that seems to be the major focus about inheritance in our climb. But I believe there's more to inheritance than physical possessions. The physical possessions cannot be left aside. However, there is more to it than the physical possession. It's just like when someone is given a bottle of Coke or a bottle of malt. The container when someone gives that Coke, this is Coke. I'm happy with the Coke. But what makes the Coke Coke is not the bottle. What makes the Coke Coke is the content.
Sure.
And what many people nowadays are focused more on the container than the content. What the father can give you physically includes maybe houses, um, estates, companies, his possessions, and the rest. That's what most people long after, and what most people desire to give their children.
Sure.
So you find most parents say, I love my children, so I want to give them the best. They take them to the best of the best schools. They give them the best of the best things they need physically, talking about their needs. They believe that's the core of inheritance. But I believe inheritance is much more than that. That cannot be left aside. But inheritance is much more about the values, the culture, the mindset that has framed the man to be who he is. When that man passes on that to the child, that is true inheritance. And I believe parents should focus more on that. Why not neglecting the physical possessions? We see many conglomerates. By the time the how do I call it, the founder or the director, the progenitor, goes on and leaves the the group of companies to the children, we find out that in a number of years, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years after the father is gone, those companies go moribund. That makes us to understand that what makes that company a company is not the physical possession, is what the father has built over the years in his heart and in his mind that makes those things work. I want to borrow a word from the scriptures. It says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he.
Yeah.
The mindset of a man determines who he is, it determines what he does, it determines the steps he takes, it determines the moves he takes. I was I was going through Facebook the other day and I saw how this this man Tony Numelu was how do I call it, raising up his daughter to take after him. And if I wasn't wrong, I heard that there was some amount of money given onto her as a salary in the company, and the father asked her to make an account of how she spent the money. That is a wise father because he's giving the inheritance to the daughter beyond the physical possession, and is trying to build the mindset of an entrepreneur into the child. But what do we have nowadays? Most rich fathers and mothers, what they do is whenever the child say, Daddy, I want this, Mommy, I want this, okay, okay, let me give you. How much do you need? 500,000, take this. And they just blow it away
Without accountability.
without accountability. And that sense of accountability is what made the parents who they are. Now, when you don't give your child what made you you, and you expect your child to be you, it's not possible. So I believe parents should look more into these things and begin to deposit into their children the values that make them who they are. Values such as discipline, just like you said, values such as accountability, responsibility, diligence, hard work, excellence, courtesy, generosity. These, among other things, are values that make people who they are. And when the parents inculcate these values to these children by periodic and systematic teaching, not only teaching but training, such that those things become the value of those children. I tell you, by the time the fathers are gone, or the father can just sit and watch the child.
Sit back.
Exactly,
And allow
sit
them
back
take charge.
and just find the child doing the same thing he's doing. Because what he did that made him achieve that same set of success, the child is now reproducing it, multiplying it in various sectors. So, just like you said, parents and fathers need to see more into parenthood than physical possessions, than academics, schooling, meeting of what you eat, what you drink, to the teaching of the values, teaching of the culture, teaching of the mindset into the children. When we look at fathers like look like families like the Bush in the US, you find out that for the family to reciprocate that, it's not just bread and butter. The father W. Bush, and then it's because some values is what is passed. And when we look at the royal family in England, yes, there are some form of rigidity and the rest, but we find out that there are some core values they pass on to each generation, so that when those people become kings, that which has been from years past can be passed on, can will not only be lived in their time, but will also be passed on. Before we started, we discussed about Dangote,
Yeah.
and then his grandfather, the Dantata generation, and we found out that that knowledge is passed from one generation to the other. Now, what Dangote got from them is the knowledge, the understanding. How does this thing work?
Yeah.
And even though the grandfather is gone, his father was late when he was a young chap. Yes, he interned. Let me use the word intern with his uncle, and but the wealth is perpetrating now. It's not the wealth, the physical. I mean, the physical wealth of his grandfather. Yes, his uncle loaned him some amount of money, which he started with as a capital. But what really made him and what made him who he is presently today is not what he got from his grandfather, maybe physical possession, no. Was from the knowledge, the understanding, the values, what made the grandfather who he is. And if parents can strive at this and ensure that what they've learned over the years, if they can strive to bring this into their children, I tell you the children would go farther than they went.